Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, I'm going to be talking about my top 3 offenses to be avoiding in your 2022 best ball drafts. Inside of today's video, I'll be going in depth into each of these 3 offenses, as well as explaining into why I believe you should stay away from the players on these teams. But before we could get into things, I would like to ask that if you are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, that you please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure that you do leave a like on today's video. It would help us out a ton. And if you would like to follow me on Twitter, please do so at Notorious FNTSY. So when I say that you should be avoiding these teams in best ball, I don't necessarily mean that in every draft you should stay away from all of these players on these teams, right? But what I am saying is that I believe these offenses are not really going to be all that good, and I think there's reason to believe that you should try to not have an abundance of these players on your roster. Now, obviously, in a best ball draft, if you're going to be doing 150 in a given contest, then it would make 0 sense to avoid these teams as a whole. But in my opinion, if you're doing 15, 20 best ball drafts, then I am probably not trying to draft a ton of players from these teams if I'm doing just a small allotment of drafts. And I do believe that these teams to avoid in best ball, basically the exact same thing as the teams I would be avoiding in my 2022 fantasy football draft. So the first team to discuss here is the Seattle Seahawks. Now, the quarterback situation in Seattle is looking pretty iffy right now. Yesterday, there were reports that Geno Smith is appearing to be the quarterback 1 on the team. He is currently coming off the board as the quarterback 41 at pick 216 on Underdog Fantasy. The other quarterback on the team, Mr. Horsecock Drew Lock, coming off the board as quarterback 35 at pick 215.9. So, who's it really going to be? In my opinion, I think the season probably starts with Geno Smith, but the team knows what Geno Smith is. Everyone knows what Geno Smith is. Geno Smith isn't great. He's a serviceable backup. If he plays, he can win you a game, but he's not going to overcome any obstacles in the game and put up a humongous point total. Drew Lock, there's a little bit more unknown with him, in my opinion. I think Drew Lock could show that he deserves a starting job in the NFL. So I think this season we'll see some Geno Smith and we'll see some Drew Lock. Could it be Geno to start the season, Drew Lock to start the season? My best bet right now would be that Geno starts the season, but at the end of the day, we probably see both of them, in my opinion, and there's also a chance that we see none of them, and Jimmy Garoppolo, Jimmy Guap, Jimmy G-Spot from the 49ers gets traded there and is the starting quarterback all year. That is also possible. But even if that is the case and Jimmy G goes there, are you still excited to draft these players? So DK Metcalf, wide receiver. He is the highest of ADP. ADP wide receiver 25, pick 53.1. I think DK Metcalf is an excellent player. And I think that if he falls in the draft to, say, the range of wide receiver 30, a couple of spots later, then I'm perfectly fine drafting DK Metcalf because of how good of a player he is. But at the end of the day, with the quarterback situation that they have right now in Seattle, with the inconsistencies that DK Metcalf has shown throughout his career with Russell fucking Wilson throwing him the football, it seems like there should be a humongous red flag put next to DK Metcalf. Now, again, the guy is immensely talented, so he might be able to overcome the shit of Drew Lock and Geno Smith. But at the end of the day, I just don't feel overwhelmingly excited when I press the draft button on DK Metcalf. I'm like, all right, I got a good receiver, but he's on a bad team. And if I'm being honest with you, in a lot of situations, it doesn't really matter how bad the team is if the player's super good. But if the quarterbacks you're dealing with is Drew Lock and Geno Smith, then it is going to be hard for him to overcome that. So when it comes to DK Metcalf, I'm not full fade on any of these players in reality. You shouldn't just completely fade any player, but I don't get excited to draft DK Metcalf, and I have hardly drafted him thus far through all of the drafts that I've done in best ball this offseason. The next player to discuss on the Seattle Seahawks is Rashad Penny, ADP running back 30, pick 91.3. Now, if you guys have been watching the videos on here, as well as on the Fantasy Football channel, I have been banging the fucking drums aggressively for Rashad Penny. I really like Rashad Penny. Now, Rashad Penny in my opinion, will be the number one running back on this team for the whole season if he can stay healthy. Now, the if he can stay healthy is a humongous ask. This guy has not stayed healthy his entire career, but in my opinion, if Penny can stay healthy, he is probably the only player on the Seahawks team. He is the only player on the Seahawks team that I am genuinely excited to draft. Even though the team's going to be bad, which I used for the argument against DK Metcalf, which we saw last season at the end of the season, they weren't very good, and Penny was still eating. I really think if he's the number one back on the team, he is worth a pick. Again, he's running back 30. That is deep enough in the draft to where he is worth a late round flyer. Next up, we got Tyler Lockett, ADP wide receiver 48, pick 105, or 100.5, I should say. So with Lockett, this is a guy that we've seen throughout his career is immensely talented. Again, he is dealing with the exact same shitty situation that Metcalf is in. I just don't feel comfortable enough with the quarterback play to be excited about Lockett. Now, in prior years, if I saw Tyler Lockett at pick 100.5 as wide receiver 48, I would have ran up to the draft board and fucking slapped that sticker on in 0.5 seconds. But that is not the scenario we're in. We're with these quarterbacks. I'm staying away from Lockett. Kenneth Walker, running back 35, pick 107.8. Now, Walker and Penny have flip-flopped in ADP. Originally, it was Walker ahead of Penny. Now Penny's going ahead of Walker. If the disgust towards Walker keeps pushing him back, then maybe I'll start, brightening him up to Walker. I really do think, though, that Penny is going to be the guy unless he gets hurt. He does have a track record of getting hurt, though, so I'm kind of staying away from Walker. Then we've got Noah Fant, who in Denver, really, he's a talented player. Tight end 21, pick 167.9. Athletic, but he never really put it together. And we've seen Drew Lock in the past. He's not this tight end feeding quarterback. So don't really like Noah Fant either. Then Drew Lock and Geno Smith, they're basically washes. If you want to draft one of them at the end of the draft, taking that fucking 3. If you've ever seen that picture of Stephen Curry shooting a 3 from the moon, that's basically what you're doing if you draft Drew Lock or Geno Smith. That's just my opinion on that. But before we move on into the next team, I think you should be avoiding in your best ball drafts as well as in your fantasy football drafts, I would like to give you guys a quick word from the friends and our sponsor of today's video, which is Underdog Fantasy, which is the single best place to play fantasy football this summer. The Best Ball Mania 3 tournament has $10 million in total prize money. All you got to do is draft your team. That's it. There's no waivers. You don't have to sit there on Tuesday night just dreading everything like, holy shit, I'm in 10 fantasy leagues. Now I got to figure out the waivers for this league. How do the waivers work? Is this a fab league? And then you're sitting there just like, damn, why did I sign up for this? On Underdog, you don't have to worry about that. You don't have to worry about calling up someone from the office, one of your friends. They're too busy to talk to you. They can't make a trade. There's no trades on Underdog. And there is no in-season management. Underdog will automatically give you the best score at each position every single week. So it edits your lineup for you. You don't even have to worry about it. So that also gives you the added bonus of you don't even have to pay attention to it. You can obviously watch it all year long. It updates on the website as well as on the app. Or you can just draft your team, forget about it, then come back in January and potentially have won multiple millions of dollars. The Best Ball Mania 3 tournament, $10 million prize pool, $2 million to first. Sounds pretty good, right? And last year's Best Ball Mania champion drafted their team in June. We are almost in August. It's about to be drafting season, so there is no need to wait. You can draft your team right now. And if you click on the link in the video description, you'll be receiving a first match deposit bonus if you are new to Underdog of up to $100. You deposit $100, you get an additional $100, and you'll be receiving our best ball draft kit and our fantasy football draft kit for 100% free. That's a combined $170 of value with a first-time deposit of $100 on Underdog Fantasy. I do drafts on there all the time. The puppy number 3 $5 entry, $1 million prize pool is opening up, I believe, on August 1st. See you guys in the lobby there. It's going to be very, very fun. I love doing best ball drafts. I love fantasy football. And again, even if you're just a fantasy football guy, I really think you will be liking best ball. Best ball, in my opinion, is the game of the future. People are going to really start playing best ball a ton as the years go on. So hop on. You're not necessarily a founder. It's not like day one of best ball, but it's still young. So next up, we move to the next team to discuss here, the Washington football team, which is now named the Washington Commanders. Now, the Washington Commanders are a team that They were pretty cool to watch a couple years ago. Last year, they were a disaster. Dumpster fire, pile of shit, like whatever word you want to use to describe the Washington football team, like whatever type of bad word you could use towards the Commanders, right? That's what they were. Some type of a bad metaphor. Like they were a steaming pile of shit last season. Okay. They were really bad. Terry McLaurin is like the bright spot in this offense. He is like the diamond in the rough of the Washington Commanders. ADP wide receiver 19, pick 39.3. Now, for years and years and years, it seems like if you guys have been watching this channel for a while back when it was Notorious Fantasy, I've been basically talking up Terry McLaurin for years. And every year, he doesn't disappoint us. He just doesn't get to the point where it's like, wow, that's why I drafted Terry McLaurin, right? Wow, that's why I thought Terry McLaurin has top 10, top 5 upside at the wide receiver position. Every year, it's kind of the same shit, different day. But McLaurin has dealt with bad at the quarterback position. And there has not really been a steady quarterback on the team. Now, they bring in Carson Wentz, ADP quarterback 28, pick 203.8. Terry McLaurin definitely got an upgrade at the quarterback position. Heineke, fine backup, kind of has a bit of pizzazz in his game. It's kind of like Drew Lock, right? Where it's like, wow, maybe Heineke can take us out of this game, or maybe Heineke is going to continue to dig the metaphorical grave for this fucking roster to jump into. But I think Wentz is an upgrade from that. So McLaurin, he's a guy that he's really the only bright spot on this team. I'm fine drafting him. Again, I'm not super excited when I press the draft button on McLaurin, but I'm not like, fuck, I think I messed up. I'm like, okay, I got a receiver that I think's good, just in a bad situation, but he's probably not going to screw me over, but I'm not just 100% sure that he's going to win me my league, right? I don't think he's going to win me my draft. That's just kind of how I feel about McLaurin. And to be honest with you, I think you should feel a little bit more confident in a guy you're drafting inside the top 40. Just kind of how I view McLaurin. Next up, in terms of ADP, we got Antonio Gibson, running back of the Washington Commanders. ADP running back 25, pick 72.6. At some point, I think the hate will go too far for Gibson, but I don't think the pendulum has swung that far yet. I really think that Gibson is a good running back, but the system that they're using there with Riverboat Ron just is not in favor of Gibson. I think, again, he's a good running back. He's a talented pass catching back, but they have McKissick, who they're not quitting on McKissick. And they bring in Brian Robinson, who's a big running back who could be vulturing goal line work from Gibson. I think that Gibson's in a range where it's okay to draft him because he's running back 25, but I don't have a lot of Gibson at all. And again, I think people are all kind of piling on to this disdain for Antonio Gibson. So I think eventually the pendulum will swing far enough to where you can just draft Gibson because he's going to be like running back 32 potentially. But right now, running back 25 in that range, I'm kind of just staying away. Again, I understand the upside of him because he's such a talented player, but I'd rather just wait 110 picks and just draft McKissick, who's running back 56, pick 182.7. So that's kind of how I see things. Next up, we move to Jahan Dotson, other wide receiver of note of the Washington Commanders. Draft pick this season inside of the first round. Wide receiver 63, pick 139.6. Now, Dotson was a guy that was kind of like projected to go maybe in the end of the first round, early second round. He gets the middle of the first round. He's selected there. Fine situation for him. Again, though, like a fine draft selection for him, right? Like he's first round draft capital. So he's going to get work. Like it's not like he's going to be useless. But again, he's on the Commanders. You take the shot on him because of the draft capital, not necessarily because he's the most immensely talented player. Again, he is the second or maybe third best receiver on this team. We've already talked about J.D. McKissick. Again, I feel pretty comfortable drafting him. Him and Terry are kind of the two bright spots for me in terms of best ball here. Then we got Curtis Samuel, the other wide receiver. Wasn't able to stay healthy last year, but we saw in Carolina that he is a talented enough player to warrant having time spent in this offense. And he could be the number 2 receiver on this team, pick 188.3, wide receiver number 80. So I don't love Curtis Samuel, but again, I understand why people are drafting him. Then there's Brian Robinson, who he's going to steal some goal line touches from Gibson. In a redraft league, this guy is basically irrelevant. In a best ball league, the reason why you draft him is because you're hoping he vultures that many touchdowns, but I don't think he's going to be vulturing as many touchdowns as some people might think. So I'm staying away from him, even at pick 192.1. Then we get Wentz, quarterback 28, pick 203.8. At that price, I am drafting Carson Wentz. But again, I'm not drafting him to be a top 12 quarterback. I'm drafting as my third quarterback. If people are only drafting two quarterbacks, I can get a third one, and I want to stack him with McLaurin. And then Logan Thomas, I am smash drafting Logan Thomas at tight end 27, pick 204.7. If his injury that he sustained last season ends up being more serious than I believe that it is right now, I am going to get absolutely kicked in the ass on Logan Thomas, and he is going to completely fuck me over. But there's also a chance that Logan Thomas is 100% healthy, maybe a couple weeks into the season, and getting him as tight end 27, and he finishes as tight end 12 in points per game. You are very happy with Thomas. So I'm kind of hoping that we're happy with drafting Logan Thomas where he does. Again, you shouldn't be fully fading any of these teams. It is hard to find teams in fantasy football that you just want to completely stay away from. It's just with these teams, I'm staying away from a majority of the players on the team. So again, I like McLaurin and I like McKissick and I like Logan Thomas, but I don't love Logan Thomas because, again, there is the risk of injury, the fact that he's already injured, and I'm kind of just hoping that maybe he's able to stay healthy, and then I'll be very happy with my selection. Again, I picked 204.7. The next team we'll move to here is the Cleveland Browns. Now, I said these are offenses that I don't think are going to be good this season. Kind of a lie about the Browns because I think the Browns are going to be a good offense this season, just not at the beginning of the season for the first couple of games of the season when Watson is suspended. How long is Watson's suspension? I don't know. I have no idea. How long will it be? Guess in the comment section. Could be 4 games, could be 8 games, could be the whole season, but at a couple of weeks ago, I would have told you, mortal lock of the fucking century, bet your house that Watson is getting the whole season suspension. Now, where I'm looking, it's like the end of July. It's probably going to be like 8 games. So for those final 8 games or 9 games of the season, now it's a 17-game season, Watson's probably going to tear the league up. He's probably going to play really well. But best ball, while people make it out to be just all about those final 3 games of the season, you also have to get there. You also have to get to weeks 15, 16, 17, the playoffs on Underdog. Other websites that don't use playoffs, it's a little bit different as well. In those websites that don't have anything to do with fantasy football playoffs, where they don't have a playoff format, it is just where highest score wins at the end of the season. I'm like very out on Watson and this Cleveland Browns in that scenario. On Underdog, I'm a little bit more in, or on the websites that have a playoff format, because maybe I can make this crazy playoff push at the end and Watson's the reason why I win the whole shebang, right? That is entirely possible. But when I'm looking at it as a whole, I'm just not too sure how good the Browns are going to be for the first 8 games if Watson's suspended that long, and that could completely be like the iceberg to the Titanic and just dismantle my team if I go heavy on the Browns. So again, if this Watson stuff ends up being like a 4-game suspension, then I'm going to look like a doofus. Probably am, but if it is more lengthy, close to like 8 games like I suspect it will be right now, then I really think that you shouldn't really be filling your team with these Browns players. Like Nick Chubb, running back 13, pick 25. Look, Nick Chubb is not a bad running back. Based upon like looking at the NFL's running backs, you could almost rank Nick Chubb in terms of just pure skill set, athleticism, all that, as like a top 5 running back in the league. The problem is this team's probably going to suck donkey peen for the first couple of games of the season without Watson. And Chubb has zilch receiving upside because Hunt is there. Now there's been some type of murmurs going around that, ooh, maybe Hunt's going to get traded. And if that is the case, then I'll just shut up about Nick Chubb, right? And then I'll be like, holy shit, the receiving upside, blah, blah, blah. Talk myself into that. But with Hunt there, it's really not that exciting. Again, Chubb's probably going to finish as running back 8 through 15. One of those spots, you're not going to be excited that you drafted him. You're not going to be pissed that you drafted him. He doesn't move the fucking needle in fantasy football. He's not going to be the reason why you win $1 zillion, but he's not going to be the reason why your team was a disaster. So that's why I'm not excited about Chubb. Again, he's picked 25 right now in drafts. So that's in the 3rd round. If you can get him in the 3rd round, the middle of the 3rd round, then yeah, I'm smash drafting Nick Chubb there. But in the 2nd round where he's going in some drafts, it seems like a pretty clear stay away. Amari Cooper looked a little washed last year in Dallas. Wide receiver 31, pick 66.5. I understand he was dealing with some injuries. But when it comes to Amari Cooper, again, without Deshaun Watson for the first 1 million games, how can you possibly be excited about Amari Cooper? I know he's really the only wide receiver that has proved himself on this team, but they still have players like Donovan Peoples-Jones, rookie, David Bell, guys that somewhat, and David Njoku, who the ball can be thrown to. So it's not like this is going to be a pass funnel offense directly to Amari Cooper. It is far from that. So I'm kind of off on Cooper. Kareem Hunt, running back 31, pick 94.4. I'm actually kind of in on Kareem Hunt because if the Browns are good towards the end of the season and they're making this crazy push, I think Hunt is going to be a big benefactor of that. And Watson could dump the ball off at a pretty high rate, I think. So I'm kind of in on Kareem Hunt, but he's really the only one. David Njoku, when Watson's not there, it is going to be a disaster because where do the touchdown or the tight ends get all their points? From fucking touchdowns when you're David Njoku. Now, if you're Travis Kelce, you get the points because Mahomes is going to throw you the ball a million times. Kyle Pitts, Darren Waller, some of these guys that are the better tight ends, Mark Andrews, they get their points from just catching a million passes. But when you're one of those lower tight ends at tight end 19, pick 164.4, you get your bread and butter from the fucking touchdowns. And Njoku's not going to be scoring many touchdowns without Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson, quarterback 22, pick 168.5. Plug your nose, draft Watson if you want. Draft him. Doesn't seem like it's going to be the whole season anymore. But again, if you draft Watson, you are pigeonholing yourself into a 3-quarterback build. I like 3-quarterback builds, so I'm fine with it. Some people, though, are 2-quarterback or die type of guys. So I'm more of a 2 or 3 quarterback guy. I don't really care. I do some drafts, I'm 3-quarterback, other drafts, I'm 2-quarterback. So it doesn't matter to me, but it does definitely change your draft strategy completely when you draft any of these Cleveland Brown guys, because your expectation of your roster in terms of points scored for the first however many games you get suspended is going to be very low, in my opinion, at least. Like, unless like Jacoby Brissett is really good, but we've seen enough Jacoby Brissett, and I've seen enough Jacoby Brissett as a Dolphins fan to realize that he's just really not that good. And then to close out discussion on the Cleveland Browns, we got David Bell, wide receiver, ADP wide receiver, 87, pick 203.2. He's banged up right now, but I do like David Bell. He just goes so late that if Watson does come back and he is Deshaun Watson that we've seen before, then I think David Bell is a sneaky pick around pick 203. Again, because he goes so late. You have to talk about that. Same thing goes with Donovan Peoples-Jones, who goes a little bit later. So please let me know down below in the comment section what you guys thought about today's video. Do you agree with my takes? Do you disagree? Either way, it's all good with me. I love talking to you guys down below in the comment section. Please make sure you check out the link in the description to get our best ball draft kit for 100% free and our fantasy football draft kit. All you got to do is do a first match deposit bonus on Underdog Fantasy up to $100. Make sure you do that. Make sure you get the free draft kit. Sounds worth it to me. My rankings are on there. Hope you guys have a great rest of your guys' day. I love you guys. As always, guys. Good boy.